Inside the compound, the rhythm of daily life carried on. Adaeze, Chief Okafor's first son, moved gracefully across the courtyard, her head wrapped in a colorful scarf, her presence dignified and calm. Her son Chike sat by the veranda, engrossed in a heavy textbook, his brow frowned in concentration. The boy was the very embodiment of discipline and intelligence. Chike, my son, Daisy called out, her voice filled with pride. You should rest your eyes a little. You have been reading since morning. Chike smiled warmly. Mama, knowledge is power. Papa says I must know everything so that I can continue from where he stopped. Adeze laughed lightly, placing a lovely hand on his shoulder. And you will, my son, you will. Across the courtyard, in the shade of a mango tree, Nkiru sat quietly, her eyes narrowing as she watched mother and son. Her hands were idle in her lap, her mind far from the gossiping women around her. She had heard it too many times, how Chike would inherit everything, how Adeze's lineage would sit on Chifokafa's wealth like a lion on top of a conquered prey. Her own son Ebuka played nearby with a few other boys, his laughter rising into the warm evening air. But Nkiru would not smile. The comparison was always there, whispered behind doors and over bowls of steaming yam porridge. Chike was brilliant. Chike was the head. Chike was the future. Later that night, Chief Okeke gathered his household in the sitting room. It was a grand room filled with leather chairs and gold ornaments. He wore a white agbada that brushed the floor as he moved. His cap perched regularly on his head. My family began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Our future lies in the hands of our children. As you all know, Chike had made me proud. Adeze beamed with pride. Her hand rested on Chike's back. The boy stood tall, his eyes shining. Chike, Chief Okafor continued, you shall begin attending meetings with me. It is time you learn the ways of the world. A round of murmured congratulations filled the room. Everyone clapped except Nkiru. She forced a smile, but her hands trembled slightly as she applauded. Inside, a storm brewed. That night, in the privacy of her chamber, Nkiru paced the floor, her wrapper loosened from her waist, forgotten. Her heart raced with fear and rage. No, she muttered, clenching her fist. I will not allow it. I will not allow her son to take everything, and my own son will be a servant in his own father's house. The next morning, she traveled alone, slipping out of the compound before dawn. No one noticed her absence. Her feet carried her deep into the deep forest, to the shrine of a dreaded native doctor known simply as Agumnobi. The air around the shrine was thick and heavy, and the smell of blood and herbs filled Nkiru's nostril. She hesitated at the entrance, but the thought of Ebuka's future pushed her forward. A voice deep and gravely echoed within. Who seeks for the spirit? I do, Nkiru answered, her voice shaking. Agunobi emerged from the shadow, his body adorned with white markings and an amulet that clinked as he moved. His eyes sharp and unblinking, pinned Nkiru to the ground. What do you seek, woman of many fears? He asked, his voice almost a growl. I seek power, Nkiru whispered. I seek to remove an obstacle from my son's path. Agunobi chuckled, a low menacing sound. You do not seek dirt, you seek madness. Nkiru nodded, tears filled her eyes. The native doctor retrieved a small leather pouch from a smoky altar. He muttered incantation over it, then tied it tightly with a red string. Place this under the boy's pillow. When the moon is high, Agunobi instructed he will lose himself and his brain, but his body remained. His mind will be your victory. Nkiru accepted the charm with trembling hands. Thank you, she whispered. Remember, Agunobi said, his voice dropping to a whisper, there is always a prize. Nkiru fled the shrine as fast as her legs could carry her, refusing to think about what prize he meant. That night, the compound was quiet. Cricket chirped and owls hooted from the darkness. Nkiru moved like a shadow through the corridors, careful not to wake anyone. She reached Chike's room and stood outside for a moment, her heart pounding so loudly. She was sure he could hear it. Stealing herself, she crept inside. Chike slept peacefully, his face serene, unaware of the betrayer lurking in the shadows. Ikiru slipped the charm under his pillow, his hands steady now, his mind cold with determination. By morning, the first signs began to show. Chike, come and eat your breakfast, Adeze called out, setting a steaming plate of yam and eggs on the table. Chike stumbled into the room, scratching his head. His eyes were unfocused and his mouth twisted in a goofy grin. Good morning, Mama, he shouted, startling everyone. Adeze frowned. Lower your voice, my son. What is wrong? Chike laughed loudly, dropping into his seat with exaggerated clumsiness. He picked up a spoon and tried to scoop water into his mouth instead of food. Adeze was surprised at the son's behavior. She was confused at why he was acting in a strange way. As the days went by and it turned into weeks, Chike's condition worsened. She clung stubbornly to hope. Her once brilliant son now sat in corners, mumbling to himself, his once bright eyes now distant and unfocused. She visited churches across the village and beyond, kneeling at every altar, weeping onto every pulpit. Priests laid hands on Chike, speaking in tongues, anointing him with oil, and commanding spirits to flee. Still, nothing changed. When the churches failed, Adeze turned to another one. She traveled to a remote village where medicine men were also known to have run ministerial work, promising healing. She bought rare herbs and brewed bitter potion, forcing Chike to drink, praying that each god would bring him back to her. But Chike only laughed louder, drooled more, and sometimes even ran naked through the compound, to the utter shame of the family. Hospitals in the city were no better. Doctors shook their heads solemnly. After conducting endless scans and tests, there is no physical illness, they said, handing Adeze a prescription for medication that barely dulled Chike's wild episode. Chief Okafor's patience wore thin. He no longer joined Adeze on her desperate quest for healing. Instead, he stayed home, grim-faced, brooding over what has become of his once promising hair. His disappointment slowly hardened into resentment. I cannot waste my wealth on a mad boy, Chief Okafor muttered one evening over dinner. His voice was low, but Adeze heard him as he shouted. She froze, her spoon halfway to her mouth, the bitter stew forgotten. Nkiru sat across the table, hid a slight smile behind her wrapper as she sipped her palm wine. Her own son Obinna now sat proudly beside Chief Okafor, discussing matters of business and the family estate. Papa, Obinna said, his voice calm and confident, we need to think about the future of the family. We cannot let sympathy cloud wise decision. Adese's heart broke. She rose slowly from the table, her legs trembling, and left the room without a word. Behind her, she could hear Nkiru's son continue to charm the old man. Soon, the others of the family were summoned for a meeting. Grey-haired men with walking sticks and grind faces gathered under the big mango tree in the compound. Their expressions were grim and serious. It is clear, one elder began, that Chike's condition is not of this world. It is a bad omen to place the destiny of her lineage in the hands of a boy who talks to himself and eats sand. Chief Okafor nodded solemnly, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. The wise thing, another elder said, is to name Obin as your official heir. Change your will while you still have strength. Liz, calamity befalls us. Adeze sat apart, clutching her wrapper, her eyes burning with unshed tears. She wanted to scream to protest, but she knew her voice would be drowned out by the tide of tradition and fear. After the meeting, Chief Okafor announced his decisions. I will make the necessary change. It is for the good of the family. Adeze staggered back as if slapped. The servant exchanged worried glances but said nothing. Nkiru, meanwhile, feigned concern, patting Adeze lightly on the shoulder. Take heart, sister, Nkiru said, her voice throbbed with sweet words. The God knows the best. That night, Adeze laid awake, staring at the ceiling. Her prayers had become dry whisper, her faith hanging by a thread. She no longer recognized her life. Everything she had built with love and sacrifice was slipping away through her fingers. Morning after morning, Adeze moved like a ghost through the compound. Chike, oblivious to the chaos that has become the center of, chased imaginary butterflies and talked to trees. Then came the fateful afternoon. The sun hung heavily in the sky as preparation for another family meeting buzzed through the compound. Women scrubbed for children carried tools, and elders began to trickle in, greeting each other with firm handshakes. The guards at the compound gazed too tall and alert until a strange figure appeared, a man filthy and ragged, his hair matted and wild, stuffed towards them, muttering and laughing. "Oga, you no fit enter here," one of the guards barked, raising his stick. "Go back, madman." But the man only grinned, a wide, unsettling grin that showed yellowish teeth. "I must see the head of the family," he said in a cracked voice. The guards exchanged confused glances. One of them moved to push the man away, but he ducked nimbly, his eye gleaming with something strange, something almost sane. Chief Okafor himself heard the commotion and stepped into the veranda. "What's the meaning of this noise?" he demanded. The man's eyes lit wide. "I have come to deliver a message." "From who?" Chief Okafor begged. The madman turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over the gathered family. His eyes landed on Nkiru. He began to say that Nkiru was the cause of the family's problem, that she went to a dibia to collect charm that made their first son to turn to an imbecile, only for her selfish reasons, so that her own son would become the next heir to the wealth of the family. The compound remained frozen, tension as thick as smoke in the air. All eyes were on Nkiru, who stood trembling, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, gasping for air. You all believe this madman?" Nkiru shrugged finally, pointing a shaky finger at the beggar. "He's insane, can't you see? Adeze must have paid him to lie. Yes, this is all Adeze's doing." Adeze shook her head. "Sister Nkiru, do not drag me into your darkness. You are jealous," Nkiru screamed, her voice cracking. "Jealous because your son is a madman. My son is now the heir. You plotted this to disgrace me." The family murmured among themselves, shifting uneasily. Some looked at us, the other frowned deeply at Nkiru, doubt spreading across their faces. The mad beggar, who had been twiddling and humming to himself, suddenly stopped and stared at Nkiru with piercing eye. "The one who digs a pit for another must be ready to fall into it," he said. Nkiru opened her mouth to retort, but then something strange happened. She chuckled at first. It was a small laugh, almost nervous, but then it grew louder and louder and louder, until it echoed across the compound like a haunting drum beat. Everyone started in horror as Nkiru doubled over, clutching her stomach and laughing uncontrollably. Mother of evil," she sang between bursts of insane laughter, mimicking the beggar's earlier words. Adeze took a cautious step back, her hands gripping Chike's shoulder protectively. Nkiru suddenly threw herself into the dusty ground, rolling and kicking her legs like a possessed woman. The others gasped, some rising to their feet in alarm. "Chineke ekwekwala," one of them whispered across. Chief Okeke clutched his chest, his face deadly pale. "What's happening?" he gasped. Nkiru slapped her own face violently, then grabbed a handful of dust and poured them on her head. She began talking to herself, switching from gibberish to English and back again. "I planted it under his pillow. Yes, he won't know. No one will know. Ha 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 ha. Bring me the charm. Bring me the blood of the innocent." The woman screamed, some running into their house. Children hid behind their mothers. Without warning, Nkiru leapt to her feet and began dancing in crazy circles, her wrapper loosening and falling apart. "Fire! Fire! Everything is burning," she shrieked, tearing at her own clothes, her hair flying wildly. Chief Okafor stumbled back. "Take her away," he shouted. "Take her away." No one dared approach her, even the guards stood paralyzed. Nkiru suddenly broke into a wide sprint, dashing out of the compound and running naked. Everyone stood rooted to the spot, stunned in silence. Then, in the midst of a chaos, a soft voice broke through. "Mama, what's happening?" Heads turned sharply. Chike, who had been sitting silent like a broken doll, was now standing upright, blinking rapidly. Adeze gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Tears sprang into her eyes as she stumbled towards him. "Chike," she whispered, barely to believing it. He looked at her. "Mama, why are you crying? Why is everyone looking at me?" With a cry of joy, Adeze threw her arms round him. "So my son is back," she wailed. "Chineke, thank you." The others stared in amazement. Chief Okafor dropped at his feet, tears streaming down his face. "It's a miracle," he cried, "a true miracle." The mad beggar watched with a knowing smile before turning and walking slowly out of the compound, disappearing to the distance like a spirit sent from heaven. Chike pulled back slightly, looking down at his tentacle. Mama, why am I dressed like this? What happened to me? Adjusted gulped her face gently. You were sick, my son, but now you're healed. Chike hugged her tightly, burying his face in her shoulder. Obin and Kiruson stood awkwardly by the side, his head bowed. He said nothing, shame written all over him. The others huddled together, whispering furiously among themselves. They knew without doubt that Kiru had caused Chike's murder and that her evil had consumed her instead. One of the oldest elder, Pamosu, stepped forward and cleared his throat. Let it be known, he declared, voice carrying across the courtyard, that Chike, son of Adeza and Chifokafo, remains the rightful heir of this family. No one should contest it again. There were murmurs of agreement all around. Some of the younger men clapped their hands in joy. The entire command seemed to breathe a collective sign of relief. Peace had returned. In the days that followed, the family purged the house of every charm and every hidden evil planted by Nkiru. Prayers and cleansing ceremonies were held to restore purity. Chike blossomed, his brilliancy returned, even brighter than before. He sat in family meetings beside his father, listening carefully, asking sharp questions, and making wise suggestions. Chifokafo grew proud again, walking with a spring in his step, boasting to all who had listened about his miraculous son. As for Nkiru, she was never seen again. Some said she wandered deep into the forest, joined the spirit. Others claimed that they saw her sometimes in Maduna muttering to herself by the river bank. But Adesi never spoke her name again. She focused on rebuilding her family, her faith, and her son's future. We have come to the end of this amazing video. I hope you did